staples, frozen mashed potatoes, and frozen peas and carrots to make my freezer fix shepherd's pie. Yep, so I've got my 9x13 pan here. I've got leftover shredded pork butt from GZ. And I'm sauteing some onions here in my skillet with a little butter and dried sage. It smells just so warm and nice. You could also use frozen onions. If you have the frozen diced onions, that would work as well. Okay, so I'm gonna add to this some all-purpose flour. And this is just gonna help everything thicken up and make a nice gravy in our shepherd's pie. Now, you could totally do this recipe with a store-bought rotisserie chicken, shred it up. You could do it with browned ground beef, ground lamb, ground pork, ground chicken. You know, you can really just play with it and make it your own. All right, so you just wanna let that flour get nice and brown, take out the flour flavor, and it's gonna help us get nice and thick. And I'm gonna add to it some Dijon mustard.
Oh, there we go.
Yep, this gives a lot of flavor, and it also just gives like a nice texture to your sauce, I think.
Do you guys know the difference between cottage pie and shepherd's pie, which is pretty traditional?
The meat,
It's the meat, right? Cottage pie is made with ground beef, and shepherd's pie is made with ground lamb. And the name shepherd's pie was named after the shepherds who herded the lamb and sheep directly into a pot, I guess, and then covered it in potato.
Now some frozen peas and carrots. All right, so throw those right in. Freezer fix. And now I'm gonna add a pantry fix, low sodium chicken stock.
I just want to say that shepherd's pie brings me way back, because when you work in a French kitchen or a traditional kitchen, you have to make staff meal, a family meal. You got to do it real fast, and shepherd's pie was a go-to, because it's like everything left over, ground up, potatoes on top, cheese in the oven, and it feeds. It's got enough 20, 30
What's your
people.
favorite cheese for shepherd's pie?
I put Parmesan on it and Swiss.
Oh, I put Havarti in between the layers.
No, we didn't go. We had like.
I didn't know there's cheese in traditional
everything.
Sometimes.
It was anything laying around. That's what you have to. You just worked with like scraps.
Right, so you just let this come to a low boil, and it'll start to thicken up. That flour will start to do its magic, and season it with a little salt, a little bit of pepper.
Boom.
And then for my other freezer fix, frozen mashed potatoes. They come in a bag, and then you can kind of give them a little extra life by putting some milk and butter in it when you heat them up.
Can I fill the bag? I just want to see, is it a clump or what's going on?
Well, they're all different. I've bought some that are in a plastic container, some in a bag, and then you microwave it or heat it up in a skillet.
The technology for freezing now is so good. They can freeze it so quickly, it doesn't damage the legume or the vegetable.
The legume.
Now I'm gonna add this leftover shredded pork into the skillet.
Can I get you as my ringtone just saying legume?
Yes.
Thank you.
What?
He said legume. He's beautiful. He's a wordsmith.
And then this will continue to thicken in the heat of the oven. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put it into my grease dish. Okay, so you can see how nice and thick and hearty this looks. Doesn't that look great?
Just like that, it came
comes together so quickly. It's
so
a
fast.
great weeknight meal. Great way to use your leftovers. And then just transfer it right into
look how bright those carrots and peas are, too.
I know.
Yeah, you get everything in one bite. Okay, so spread that out. And now those mashed potatoes. I got these nice and creamy with a little extra bit of butter.
So basically, we paid for the first dish, right? And now this is free.
Yeah.
So
courtesy of your freezer.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. It's really a good one. And this is something you could probably eat on for 2 days as well.
Yep.
Easy.
Spread out those mashed potatoes. And maybe you've had leftover mashed potatoes. You can take those and put them in the freezer. I've made this with mashed butternut squash on it. But the mashed cauliflower that they're selling now is great. Okay, so a little bit of Parmesan cheese on top, and this just helps it get nice and browned. Adds a little extra flavor to it. Good stuff there. I'm gonna hit it with just a little bit of pepper, and then it goes into the oven, 350 degrees. And I've got one.
It's like quick boil this too, if you want it, right? Because
everything's cooked. Yeah, I just want everything to get hot.
You gotta bubble it.
You gotta bubble it?
Yeah.
You want the edges to bubble.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, if you didn't have the time, you could probably.
So it goes into the oven 350 degrees for 50 to 60 minutes. And comes out like this.
Good Lord.
It's good looking leftovers, right? Leftovers, it doesn't mean that you're taking the stuff out of the refrigerator, putting it in the microwave. Give it a little bit of loving, and you can have something like this.
See,
So
people,
good.
come on, use your brains. That's why we're here.
I love
I do
leftovers.
too. We actually had some leftovers in my family that we're actually still wondering what the original meal was.
My husband gets on me because he says that I make us eat leftovers too much, to the point that in our wedding vows, I said that I would never make him eat stuffed peppers again because there was a time that we had them 5 days in a row.
That's too much.
And he was like, no more.
Look at that, girl.
I think 3 days is the cutoff. 2 is pushing it.
Sometimes it's so good, you do want to repeat it exactly as is.
Katie,
you
can we have
know?
a slightly larger portion, please?
Goodness gracious.
I mean,
Look at
I
that.
always want to go back for seconds.
I think the audience is gonna want a piece of this, huh?
This smells delicious.
What do you think, audience? We feed them. That's right. Not only are they a real audience,
Happens
they
to me
get
every
real
day when I
food.
look in the window. Get that applause
Since
meter.
you thought they were too big of portions, you and Jeff can share.
There we go. Look at this. Just like old times.
Could I have some ice with my champagne, please?
Here you go, GZ. Here's your portion.
No, it's fine.
This is comfort food,
There you
Katie
go.
Lee. This is comfort on 10. You've already
What the hell
got
is that?
that
Oh,
pulled pork that just percolated and simmered for us. Slow cooking food is always the best food. It sticks to your bones. It's
I mean, that
delicious.
pork is cooked perfectly.
It's super, GC, of course, your pork is, well, let's be real. Not only is it cooked perfectly the first time, but it holds up the second time.
Yeah.
And that's what's really key. It's not dried out or anything like that because you added so much good, luscious flavor. But what I truly do love about this is that, you know, savory brulee feeling of the parm over the top. You kind of crunch into it. Great combo. It's not shepherd's pie, but it's shepherd's pie, baby girl. This is delicious.
It's the weekend of Pawhuska's homecoming, and this afternoon is the big homecoming parade. Now, Lad and the boys are actually riding on floats in the parade, and I'm gonna head in there pretty soon. I'm gonna make the foundation for a snack they can have after the parade, a big batch of chicken nachos. The boys love chicken nachos, and it's just the thing for football season. I've got 4 chicken breasts, and I'm just seasoning them really well with some taco seasoning and some chili powder. Makes them really spicy. And it's great because the taco seasoning has salt in it, so you really don't need to add extra salt at all. I want the chicken to be as flavorful as possible. The sauce is actually gonna come from what I put on the chicken, so I really wanna lay it on thick. I love chili powder because whatever you add it to becomes the most amazing color, and it's nice and spicy. And that's something my family loves. Now I've got a skillet with some olive oil that I've been heating, and I'll just get the chicken in. Now I'm just gonna cook the chicken for about 10 minutes total, turning it halfway through, and then I'll move forward with the delicious sauce. The chicken is fully cooked and it looks and smells amazing. I'll just take it out and get it on the board. And I'm gonna make a sauce for the chicken right in the same skillet. I'll just pour in some water, probably 1.5 cups to 2 cups. And to help it along, I'll pour in just a little bit of tomato sauce. And then I'll just whisk this together and let this boil up and come together. I love chicken nachos. Well, I love nachos, period. But chicken nachos are a real treat. Shredded chicken with a delicious sauce on it, smothered in cheese, on top of chips. I'm already hungry for them. Now, the chili powder and the taco seasoning add plenty of spice, but that's never enough for me. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of my favorite hot sauce, just to make sure it's got a nice zip to it. Okay, that's looking good, so I'll let that simmer and heat up. And while that happens, I need to shred all of this chicken. And I'll just use 2 forks and go right in with it. There is nothing like football season, and really there's nothing like football season in a small town like Pawhuska. It really is important around here, and homecoming weekend is pretty much the height of football season in a small town. The parade is a great way to kick it off. All the cheerleaders are there, the high school football players, so it's really fun to see the whole of Pawhuska football represented. Chicken nachos are definitely one of Lad's favorites, so he's gonna be excited when he gets home after the parade. I think shredded chicken is so great on nachos or in any Mexican food. Okay, the sauce looks amazing, it smells divine, so I'm just gonna plunk the chicken right into the sauce, and then I'll just simmer it for a few minutes, then I'll let it cool, pop it in the fridge, and I'm gonna head into the parade. Getting that chicken ready will be a big time saver later. Now I'm actually gonna do 2 versions of nachos, one for the boys and a more embellished one for the girls. They both start exactly the same. A pile of tortilla chips, and then a generous amount of grated cheddar jack cheese. After that comes a layer of the delicious chicken. Then I'll build 2 more layers just like that. Chips, cheese, chicken, and then I'll end with a final sprinkling of cheese. They go into the oven at 350 until the cheese is nice and melted, and that's where the similarities end. Now the boys will eat the nachos just as they are, but I like to add a few more delicious ingredients. Jarred jalapenos, chopped tomatoes, a sprinkling of black olives, sliced green onions, and a dollop of sour cream. To me, that's what chicken nachos are all about.
I am making my spaghetti and juicy, loosey meatballs. To start, I've got a pound of ground beef and a pound of Italian sausage. I'm gonna season this with 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt. I'll crack in a couple of eggs to bind these together, a cup of breadcrumbs, Parmesan for extra flavor, and then I'll grate half the yellow onion. I'll chop and add about a 1/4 cup of fresh parsley, and I'll chop 2 cloves of garlic. Before my hands get really meaty, I'll open up my mozzarella balls. This is what makes these meatballs juicy, loosey meatballs, because a little bit of mozzarella in the center will melt down and get oozy and be that perfect little surprise. Okay, to shape these, I'm gonna divide it into 8 equal parts. And I'll take 1/8 of the meat, stick a ball of cheese right in the center, hide it like a meat dumpling, sealing it well so that the cheese doesn't melt out. Just like that. I'll stick it onto my baking sheet now and then keep on shaping my spheres. Balls are looking good. I'll bake these now at 400 degrees for 18 to 22 minutes until they're browned all over. And in the meantime, I'll get going on the rest of my spaghetti. I'm keeping it simple when it comes to the sauce so that the meatballs can be the star of the show. I'm starting with some olive oil in my braiser here, and I'll add half a sliced onion, a pinch of salt. Just stir this around and let these onions soften. In goes loads of garlic, and a little crushed red pepper for some heat, and a teaspoon of oregano will be nice. I'll stir this around, and I just want to cook this for another minute until I can start to smell that garlic. I'll pour in some tomato sauce, ladle in some water. I'll just steal it from my pasta cooking pot here, and then add my tomatoes. These are whole peeled tomatoes, and I'll just get in here with my hands to crush them up. And I like starting with the whole ones. They're actually pretty satisfying to crush, and they taste really good. Stir this all together, bring it to a boil, and then reduce to a simmer, and just let this go until it thickens. All right, I'm ready for my balls. Oh yeah, those look meaty and good. Now these are not fully cooked yet. I'm going to finish up their cooking process by simmering in the sauce. So I'll nestle these right in. And these will go for about 10 minutes, which is the perfect amount of time to get my spaghetti going. I'll first salt my boiling water, a good handful. I've got 1 pound of pasta. Give it a swirl so that it's all submerged. I'll let the pasta boil, let my balls simmer, and then I'll be ready to assemble. Oh, yeah. Those are some balls with a capital B. I'll drain my pasta, and I'll toss it with a little sauce so that the pasta doesn't get sticky. I'll nestle the balls on top of spaghetti. Get a little more sauce on here. I'll finish with a drizzle of olive oil for a little more richness. And a storm of Parmesan. And tear some fresh basil to finish. This is a platter of ball-tastic comfort right here. I better just taste one to make sure they're good. Oh, I'm getting a cheese pull. Look at that, right there. Spaghetti and meatballs is classic for a reason.
My easy chicken pot pie with cubes of seasoned chicken breast and a creamy gravy with pearl onions, sweet peas, and diced carrots. I'll top the casserole with pie dough and bake it until the crust gets golden and flaky. In my cast iron pan, I've got some oil down. I'm gonna build up my seasoning that I'm gonna go ahead and season my chicken tenders with. All right, so in my bowl here, I've got some oregano and my sweet paprika, kind of like a smoky, earthy flavor, mild. And then in addition to that, some sage, one of my favorite things to cook with. Some salt and pepper goes in, and this is what I'm gonna go ahead and season up my chicken tenders. The cool thing about this recipe is I'm gonna feed 4 people, you guys and myself, with about 8 or 9 chicken tenders, which is really hard to do if you're just gonna, make them on their own, like grill them or fry them up or something like that. So I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit on both sides, right into the pan. Not all in the same batch because I just want these to get nice and golden brown on both sides. And if you put it all in the same batch together, it kind of steams up. I'm just getting some garlic into my pan here for my chicken pot pie. Remember, I started off by seasoning up my chicken, some oregano, some sage, some sweet paprika, salt and pepper. I cooked them off right here in this same pan, and then I got in my peas and carrots from the freezer department of my freezer and my refrigerator, and then also the pearl onions. I really love pearl onions. They're quick in a pinch. They're tiny little nuggets of onion, but I love getting them in the freezer section because all the work is kind of done for you. Kind of like a cipollini onion. You wouldn't want to do all that work, but boy, is it tasty and sweet. All right, so now to my veggies, I've added some flour, guys. This is gonna kind of make it nice and thick and creamy when we eat it.
It smells so good.
Some chicken stock. Oh, cannot wait. All right, just a little chicken stock down. Now this is gonna bubble up, and the heat is what's gonna make that flour kind of react and become nice and thick. I've got my chicken pot pie almost ready to go into the oven. Remember, these are my chicken tenders that I just seasoned up very simply with some salt and pepper, some sweet paprika, oregano, and sage. Just put them to the side really quick while I'm building up what's gonna be the base of my chicken pot pie. All right, so I added in some heavy cream. Now I'm just gonna give a taste of this, see if it needs any salt. Just a little bit. I'm gonna stir it up and get my chicken right in. Looks good, right?
It does.
Fantastic.
All right, so I'm just gonna cover this up with
good.
some pie crust right over the top. Now I've got my oven preheated at 400 degrees, and this is only gonna cook for about 20 minutes or so. Now I just push it in like this. Make sure I kind of almost seal it, but not really. I'm gonna vent it so it doesn't bubble up too much around the edges. So less venting, means more juicy, but still gotta vent because you don't want it to bubble over. All right, that's in the oven. Oh, man.
Wow.
Oh,
that looks
fantastic.
Yeah?
I'm so hungry.
You ready to eat?
Yep.
All right, let me see this right here. Really simple to do, and hopefully it takes you back to your childhood, a nice homemade meal.
I'm making really simple cheese quesadillas. I'm using flour tortillas, 3 different kinds of cheese, white cheddar, pepper jack, and some regular Monterey Jack. And then a little diced tomato and some canned diced green chilies, my favorite combination. I call these the greatest cheese quesadillas for a reason. They are truly perfect. So how was your morning, guys?
It's good.
Good.
It's windy out there.
It's making Oklahoma proud out there today.
That shrimp is good.
I'm so glad, Papa. I figured out today that you and I pretty much like all the same foods. And I have something else in common with you, Papa, that Grandma used to talk about all the time, that as soon as I finish a meal, I'm pretty much thinking about the next one too, just like you.
That's what Grandma always said.
That's right. Well, I'm glad you guys weren't burning today.
Jackie Joe's gonna do some spot burning over there. I left him the Jeep.
I hope you left him a fire truck.
Well, it can't go anywhere. You want a cheese quesadilla?
Yeah, have some cheese quesadillas. What you don't eat, I'll take. Quesadillas are my favorite food. It's always nice to get the last quesadilla because then it's the hottest and the gooeyest.
Do you mind stirring this up?
I would love to.
And I'm gonna get some noodles out of the pantry here, and my lychee, some thyme.
Oh, it smells good.
It's just, you know what? It's onions, a little bit of salt and pepper.
How come you didn't cry when you
mean,
cut the onions?
I have these special tear ducts. No, not at all. All right, I'm just gonna sprinkle over some of my dried thyme, whole leaf. All right, so I've got my water, it's salted, it's boiling. I'm gonna get my egg noodles in and cook them till they're al dente, like you said. So right now what I'm doing is I'm building up some flavor. Remember the cremini or the button mushrooms that we put in there?
Yes.
Our baby Bellas. Sliced them up, put some thyme in there, a little bit of salt and pepper and some butter and a little bit of olive oil as well. And then we just went ahead and got them nice and tender, and it's a good time to add in some flour. Onions are in there as well. Now, the flour is gonna help thicken it, of course. It's gonna tighten it up, add a little bit of body to it before I hit it with the cream. And the good old yummy broth that's gonna go in here. Chicken broth, of course, but if you don't have chicken broth, you can do vegetable broth. All right, in with the mushrooms and the flour is my twist, horseradish. This is gonna give it a little...
Because you got the creaminess and then the horseradish type bite? Is that what you're looking for?
You are in there. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
And it's not enough horseradish to lose the whole dish?
It's not enough to lose the whole dish, the whole flavor. It's not gonna make your nose hairs singe or anything like that. It's just gonna add that little bit of something. Kind of like a little pinch of salt in a good chocolate chip cookie. It's gonna be like, what is that that's making this everything right? You know what I mean? And that's what it's gonna do. All right, so I got my egg noodles all drained out, al dente. Make sure they are nice and to the tooth. And then to my pan right here, I'm gonna add in some of my chicken stock. It's a good time to do that because the flour is kind of cooked out, the flavor. You'll know it's right when it looks really gummy on your vegetables. And then I'm just gonna add that stock. And this is gonna thicken up really quick for us. And then I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of that heavy cream. And that's gonna bring it to the nice cream of mushroom texture that we're used to without all the preservatives. Right into the tuna noodle casserole is the egg noodles, nice and al dente. And then behind your back, I didn't show you, but I got the green peas in here. They're frozen, the frosted, thawed, all that good stuff. We tasted it, pretty good.
Yeah, it's
we don't need any salt. So I'm just gonna go ahead and stir this up, but you know what I really need to do is get the tuna in. And then, hey, Anthony, do you wanna shred up some cheese with me too?
All of it?
I'd say about a cup and a half or so. I'll let you know.
What are you thinking?
That's perfect.
That's it?
Oh, good, good, good. All right, I'm gonna get this in here, and I'm just gonna stir everything together. Yeah, bring that over, baby. This is gonna help it be nice and creamy.
Yeah, looks great.
Along with the heavy cream in here.
Looks great.
Got the chicken stock.
Yum.
Hey, do you want to stir this up for me really quick? And then I'm gonna wow you with a bread topping.
How can you do that, Sonny?
Well, it's very simple. Yeah, I hate to take credit for it, but it's just panko crumbs, a little bit of olive oil, and some salt. That's gonna go right over the top of this. I'm gonna get this into the oven, 375 degrees. It's only gonna take 35 minutes. A little bit of olive oil. I'm going to reach in here really quick.
That really does look good.
Right? It looks
Stir
good,
this
bro.
up.
Yes.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna get this into the oven. And here is
Go turn on the
tuna
lights.
That smells delicious, Sonny.
casserole.
Sonny, this is delicious.
You like it?
Very good.
Thank you.
I use just not impressive at all, but very handy pizza dough that comes in a roll, sold in the refrigerated section. We all know what I'm talking about. And I am going to assemble one of the pigs in the blanket. So it starts with a little bit of marinara sauce, and then a little piece of mozzarella cheese. So then a little pinch of crushed red pepper flakes, just to give it a little spice. A pepperoni, which is Todd Drummond's favorite snack in the world. And then one of these little breakfast sausages. Put it right in the center. And then this is gonna get a little bit messy before it's all said and done, but the messiest recipes are the tastiest recipes. Who said that? Socrates? So I'm gonna put it onto the pan, and then watch what happens, Paige. Then I'm gonna brush the top with just an egg wash, which is just egg with a little bit of water. And then I have this mixture of Parmesan cheese and Italian seasoning, and I'll just sprinkle a little bit on top for a little crust. I'm gonna do the exact same thing to the rest of the squares of dough. Okay, let's get these in the oven. Ready?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna bake these at 425 degrees for 15 minutes until they're golden. They're gonna be so good. Feel free to gather around.
Oh my gosh.
Feel free to.
So good.
How good do, go ahead. How good do they look? Okay, they look amazing, look.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh, just perfect.
Oh, close-up action.
I've got a little dish of, they're very cheesy, and some of the cheese kind of oozes out, and that is just okay. It's nice to kind of see a little hint of what's inside. Okay, I'm gonna keep working and get the rest of these on the platter. Guys. Pizza pigs in a blanket. I've got a little dish of marinara sauce. I'm gonna taste one, ready?
So graceful.
We are making Southern chicken and dumplings today. It is a chicken and vegetable stew with pillowy soft chive dumplings on top. You ready to cook? Let's go. So we have our Dutch oven here heated to medium-high heat. If you do not have a Dutch oven, you can use a large deep pot. Let's take 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter and melt it into our pot. 6 boneless, skinless chicken thighs here. Just a pinch of salt and pepper on both sides. Our butter is melted. Let's add in our chicken. And I like using boneless, skinless chicken thighs because it's easier to shred at the end. We're gonna let this sear on one side for 3 minutes. While that's searing, let's go over to our cutting board. So for our vegetables, we have carrots, celery, and an onion. All right, let's chop our carrots. I'd say let's cut them about a ½ inch thick. Put your carrots into a bowl. Now we have our celery. And we're gonna cut our celery the same, about a ½ inch thick. All right, guys, let's turn our chicken. The chicken should be brown on this side, and it is. Your pot may create a hot spot. I see that this side of the pot is a little hotter, so let's just rotate. Take the more brown pieces and move them to the back. Okay. While that's cooking on this side, let's go back to our cutting board. Let's chop the rest of our celery. Line up your celery stalks together and just dice this way. All right, gather up your celery, put it into the bowl with your carrots. Let's not forget about our onion. Okay. We're gonna dice our onion a little smaller than the carrot and the celery. Okay, put your onions in a bowl. Okay, let's check on our chicken. Should be golden brown on both sides. And they are. So let's remove the chicken and put it on a tray. What we're gonna do now is cook our vegetables in the remnants of the chicken. So if you may have noticed some of your butter may have burnt off, that's okay. You can add 2 more tablespoons of butter. Let's take our veggies and put it into our Dutch oven. Okay, give it a mix. And make sure you're scraping as you mix, getting up all of that stuck on flavor. Generous pinch. All right, give it a mix, and we're gonna let this cook for 3 more minutes. And you wanna keep stirring at this point because you don't want your onions to stick to your pot. Stir, scrape, stir and scrape. Let's grab our flour. You should have 2 tablespoons, put it into your pot. The flour is gonna help thicken up our soup. Give it a stir. While this softens, let's head back to our cutting board and chop 2 cloves of garlic. I like adding garlic at this point because garlic loses its intensity the longer you cook it. So I like adding in garlic right before the liquid goes into our pot. Add your garlic to the pot, give it a stir. Let's add in 6 cups of chicken stock. Bring it to a slight boil, so you may have to turn up the heat on your pot. Give it a stir. Let's add in our bay leaf. 1 should do the trick. Okay, let's add our chicken back to the pot. And what my mom always loved to do, get some of that chicken juice and put it right in the pot. Oh, that looks pretty, guys. All right, our stock is boiling. Let's reduce the heat and allow this to simmer for 45 minutes. While this is simmering, let's go over and make our chive dumplings. We have 1 cup of all-purpose flour. Level it off with your finger. Add it to your bowl. 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. Give it a whisk. Let's add in 2 tablespoons of vegetable shortening, and you can cut that in with a fork. You want to cut in your shortening with the fork until your shortening turns into the size of a pea. Let's add in our buttermilk. You should have 2/3 cup of buttermilk. Okay, give it a whisk. All right, let's dice a bunch of chives. Okay, you want to dice them fairly fine. This is a little different from my mom's recipe. She didn't use chives, but I love the oniony flavor of a chive. Okay, right, that should be about 2 tablespoons. Add it to your bowl. Okay. Let's fold in our chives. That looks good to me. Hit pause and meet me back at the stove when 45 minutes is up. All right, so it's been 45 minutes. Let's remove our top and shred the chicken. I like to shred the chicken with 2 forks, that's it. Make sure your heat is turned down to low. And your chicken should easily shred with a fork. Now let's drop in our dumpling mixture. I like to spray my spoons with a little cooking spray before adding in this dumpling mixture. That will help the dumpling fall right into your soup. Look, that's it, nothing left on the spoon. And these don't have to be perfect. My mom's dumplings were never perfect. This mixture should yield about 6 to 8 dumplings, medium size. We're gonna cover the pot and let it go for an additional 15 minutes. Pause and meet me back here when it's ready. All right, so it's been 15 minutes. Let's check on our chicken and dumplings. Oh, wow, look at that. Smells incredible. All right, let's head over and serve this in a bowl. Wow. All right. Before we put our chicken and dumplings into a bowl, this is what I like to do. I like to add a little bit more greenery on top. So I'm gonna take some fresh parsley and give it a rough chop. Just adds a pop of color to your bowl. Grab your bowl and a ladle. I like to grab the meat and the soup first, and then put my dumplings on top. Oh, I'm getting real hungry. Got my little dumpling right there. I think I can put one more in there. All right. Let's get your parsley and just sprinkle on top. Let's give it a taste. Make sure you blow it off. It may be a little hot. Takes me back to my childhood. Incredible. It's well seasoned. The chives and the dumplings, they're just melt in your mouth. You get some of that oniony flavor. You get the robust flavor of the veggies, the carrots, the celery. The chicken thighs just adds another layer of flavor in there. This is what you call chicken and dumplings.
I'm making a slow cooker lasagna that will knock their socks off. I've been sauteing some diced onion in a big old skillet. I'm gonna need this big old skillet because this has a lot of ingredients. I'm gonna start with the two meats. I've got some ground beef and some Italian sausage. Now all I need to do is just crumble the meat, let it brown completely, and then I'll move on with the recipe. Okay, I got the meat all browned. Now I'll move forward with the rest of the ingredients for the meat sauce. I've got a big old can of diced tomatoes and I'm adding the juice. The lasagna is gonna need plenty of moisture when it's in the slow cooker, so I don't drain any of this. Another small can of diced tomatoes. And then I love that rich tomato flavor, so I'm gonna add a can of tomato paste. I've got the tomatoes stirred into the meat, so I've got some seasoning to add, starting with garlic, of course. You can't make lasagna without fresh garlic. Some salt and pepper. And this has a nice mix of fresh and dried spices. I'm gonna start with some dried oregano. And then I'll chop up some basil and parsley and add that in. Okie doke. The fresh herbs are all chopped up. So I'm gonna leave some aside for the cheese mixture for the lasagna. And I'll add some in here. You can't beat fresh parsley and basil. Turn the heat off, and that's the meat sauce. The second step for the slow cooker lasagna is making the cheese mixture. And this cheese mixture is mighty, mighty cheesy. It's got 3 cheeses to be exact. I've been grating up some fresh Romano cheese. Ooh, nice and sharp. I love this stuff. And I'll add about the same amount of grated Parmesan cheese. Now with my regular lasagna, I actually use cottage cheese, believe it or not. But I'm gonna use ricotta cheese, and it's whole milk ricotta. I'm gonna add most of this container. I need 3 cups. And then I have a couple of eggs, which helps kind of bring everything together in the slow cooker. And the rest of these beautiful, beautiful herbs. Then all I need to add is salt and pepper. That's the cheese mixture. Now all that's left is assembling it, and then it takes a little time to cook. But the payoff is totally worth it. I think I'm just about finished grating up the mozzarella. And that, by the way, is a 4th cheese that I'm putting into this dish. But who's counting, right? Okay, now it's about assembling it, which is super fun and really easy. I'm just gonna spray the slow cooker all over the inside with some cooking spray. I'm gonna start by putting some meat sauce in the bottom of the slow cooker. I'll add about 1/4 of the sauce. I've got 1 regular size noodle and I'm putting it right in the center. And then I snapped a couple of smaller sizes, just broke off the ends so they would fit. So I'll put a couple that are slightly shorter, overlapping the big one. And then I've got some shorter ones, and those will go on the outside. There's no exact science to this. Just kind of snap and break to fit the slow cooker you have. Now for the ricotta mixture. Okay, the mozzarella goes on next. The layers start all over again. Meat, noodles, cheese mix, mozzarella, and again. Meat, noodles, cheese mix, mozzarella, and this time, meat, and a final layer of mozzarella. Turn it on low for 4 hours, and dinner's done. I'll let the lasagna sit for about 30 minutes with the heat off. And that, my friends, is officially a make-ahead marvel.
You got a big pizza oven in the backyard, wood-fired. Yeah, you got to start it up about 3 hours before you want pizza. But there's been many a time where the kids will say, we want pizza. I'm digging around, it's whole wheat flour this and making sauce out of nothing. This is just a nice, quick, easy sauce to work with. We're gonna get some onions, some garlic, some chili flake. We'll put it all in there, okay? Chop on the onion. Little veg oil down. Okay, so that's looking good. Let me preheat this bad boy. Now here's the key to this. You know, pepperoni has a tendency to kind of sweat a little bit. You know, it's made up of the fat and the meat and it's cased. Well, what happens is when we cook it down, that's what we love about a pizza, is that it cooks the fat out and kind of sits up on top of the pizza, and that's what makes it taste so good. But sometimes it'd be a little too oily. So what I'm gonna do to kind of beat it to its punch is I'm gonna take some of this pepperoni, give a little slice, just to start some off, and I'm gonna sweat this pepperoni to help it out and give a little olive oil to do that. And what I'll do is let this get nice and crispy, almost like bacon. So it's gonna have that crispy pepperoni thing we love inside of the dip. Into this, a little bit of garlic. And this is gonna be for my cheese mixture that's gonna go on the bottom of this entire dip. There's a little dice on the garlic, a little cream cheese, 1 egg, salt and pepper, a little bit of that chili flake, some oregano. Mix that into that cream cheese before I get all of those cheeses in there and make it real tough on myself. Little ricotta cheese and about 2/3 of the cup of that. And then Parmesan, you can't beat the saltiness of that. Now, here's the cheese mixture I have on the bottom of this. Cream cheese, ricotta cheese, and a little bit of the Parmesan cheese. Now this fast tomato sauce or pizza sauce, it's really thickened up. I let it reduce the San Marzanos, the peppers and the garlic. Next, some cremini mushrooms, some onions, and some red bell pepper. Look how nice those mushrooms are in there. Perfect pizza toppings. Now look at this, the pepperoni. I subliminally was forgetting it because I just wanted to keep there as a snacking tray. Those pieces, no, you don't want to put those in here. You want to leave those there. So the pepperoni goes on. Now the fresh mozzarella. Look at this. And here's the cool thing. This dip is ready to go. Just because it's a little bit to the right to the rim, I don't want it to be bubbling over. Lori gets really mad. Okay, we'll throw this down. 350, 15, 20 minutes. We'll let it go. Got some pizza dough, just kind of rolled it out, hit it with a little salt, little oil, cooked it off, and then right into this. Look at that. There's the cremini, the bell peppers, the mushrooms, the onions, the garlic. There's the little ricotta. You can, it's like, again, pizza on a stick. Perfect game day food.
I've got some radiatore pasta, which is really cute and frilly, and I drained it and rinsed it under cold water because I need it to be cold when I add all the other ingredients. And now I'm gonna fry up some bacon. This is one of the reasons this is a kid-friendly pasta salad. I've never met a kid that argued with bacon. I'll put in about 8 slices or so. I'm gonna cook the bacon until it's just beyond the chewy stage, just so it's slightly crisp. Okay, now I'm gonna get started on the dressing. I'll start with 1/2 cup of mayonnaise, and then I'll add 1/2 cup of milk, and then just plain white vinegar. I'll add about 3 tablespoons. So I'll whisk this together. Yeah, that looks just right. You don't want it to be too thick. You want it to be nice and pourable so it'll coat all the pasta. Now I'll add some salt. and plenty of black pepper. Give it a stir. And that's the dressing. Simple as that. Okay, and with that, the bacon is done. Don't want it to get too crisp. I'm gonna drain it on a paper towel so the pasta salad won't be too greasy. All right, now let that cool for a minute. Now I'm gonna throw together the salad. I'll just put the cheese in. I've got about 1/2 pound of mild cheddar cheese, very palatable for all kids, and the lovely yellow and red tomatoes. I've got about 10 ounces of tomatoes, give or take. And now the bacon is cool. I'm just gonna give it a rough chop. There's almost more extras than there is pasta in the pasta salad. Then for a little flavor, I've got 3 green onions. Yummy. Now I'll just pour in the dressing. I need a spoon for this. Oh, so pretty. Now, to really send this kid-friendly pasta salad over the top, I'm gonna add some fresh basil. This is just perfect. It's got the right amount of bacon, the right amount of cheese. The girls are gonna love it.
These are gooey and melty with a thick, crisp breaded shell. They are so good. So to start, I'm chopping up a block of mozzarella into sticks. And I've thrown this in the freezer for a few minutes before chopping because it makes the sticks easier to cut. And now I'll set up my breading station. I've got 3 shallow bowls, and I'll set them up in a row. And to the center one, I'm gonna crack in 3 eggs. An ideal mozzarella stick has a really thick coating of breading. It makes it crunchy, it holds in all the cheese, and it's just really tasty. I'll beat these up. And now to the first bowl, I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of flour and a good pinch of salt. I'll just give it a toss with my hands. Okay. And then in my last bowl, I'm gonna add my breadcrumbs. I'm using panko breadcrumbs and traditional breadcrumbs here. I love the combination of textures and the added crunch from the panko. I'll add 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs and 1 cup of panko breadcrumbs. Panko breadcrumbs are bigger and fluffier than traditional, so these are gonna make the texture of the breading even better. And then I'll also add 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese, which will add amazing flavor to the coating. And now I'm gonna season this mixture. I'll add a teaspoon each of onion powder, garlic powder, and Italian seasoning. I feel like this breading alone could be a winner, but when it's around cheese, heck yes. I'll just mix to combine. I think the band is gonna freak out over these. They are the perfect post-concert snack. Or hopefully pre-concert snack tonight because I'm crossing my fingers that they play a song for us. Now these are ready to bread. I've got my breading station set up, my flour, my eggs, and my seasoned breadcrumbs, and now I'm gonna roll the mozzarella sticks in all 3, and then I'm gonna give them an extra dunk in the eggs and breadcrumbs so that their shell is really thick. It's gonna make these even more mind-blowing. Here I go. The flour helps the eggs stick, so I'll get them completely coated in flour, and then I'll transfer them to the egg. This gets a little messy, but it's worth it. I'll make sure they're completely coated, and then roll them in the breadcrumbs. And I'm gonna designate my right hand for dunking in the egg and my left hand for the breadcrumbs. It makes this process way cleaner. There is some serious mozzarella stick magic happening right now. Now I'm gonna give these another dunk in the egg and coating in the breadcrumbs because this will make the crust doubly as thick, doubly as good. It's gonna hold the cheese in, it's gonna make these crunchier and more flavorful. This is peak mozzarella stick. You know, for another great appetizer recipe, you should check out the Food Network Kitchen app and get my fried cheesy pickles. They're so good. Now they go back into the breadcrumbs. 2 breading layers. Oh my gosh. These look incredible. I'm gonna transfer them to a plate and then keep on breading. I have a couple of inches of oil heating up to 375. I'm gonna fry these in batches until they're golden. It'll only take a couple of minutes. Oh, look at that sizzle! It's already starting to smell really good. I think it's that Parmesan in the breading that's frying right now. Oh yeah. These are ready to come out. I'm gonna transfer these to a wire rack that I have on top of a sheet pan, and that's gonna allow any excess oil to drip off, and it'll keep them crispy on the bottom too. Look at how thick these are! And the breading is so good. I should probably taste these to make sure that they're okay for the band. Look at that cheese ball. Here I go. They are so creamy and melty, and that crust on the outside is the perfect shell. There's so much flavor. Let's eat.
A supersized slice of pizza, and I do mean supersized. I'm gonna form the big slice right now, and I'm using my foolproof pizza dough. It never ever fails me. Let me tell you how to make this. I got salt and flour into the mixer, turned it on low, poured in olive oil, and active dry yeast dissolved in warm water. Then when everything was mixed, formed it into a ball in an olive oil smeared bowl, covered it with plastic wrap, let it rise for an hour, then stashed the dough in the fridge. This dough is the best, and it's so easy to shape into whatever shape you want. I'm literally forming it into the shape of a big slice of pizza. Emphasis on big. This is basically going to be a whole pizza. It's just not going to be round or oval like my pizzas usually are. It's in the shape of a pizza slice. Okay, I think that looks great. I'm totally convinced. I think the boys will be too. Okay, I'm gonna put the toppings on the pizza. This ought to be fun. I'll start with just jarred marinara sauce. How fun would it be to have a pizza party and make 3 or 4 different slices of pizza like this? Put different toppings on them. I think that would be such a fun idea. Now, I want to leave the sauce off of the end because it's supposed to look like the pizza crust, but I want to get it all the way to the edges because I want it to look like I basically cut a huge slice of pizza. Okay, that's enough sauce. So I'll put on a layer of mozzarella slices. Sometimes with pizza, fresh mozzarella can get a little bit watery, so I'm kind of sticking with the supermarket stuff. And you can just tear the pieces as you need to fit them on there. And then fontina comes next. Fontina on pizza is scrumptious. It is so flavorful and creamy. Now I've got some Romano cheese, and I'm not gonna sprinkle on too much. This is a little bit sharper and more flavorful than Parmesan. Since this is a supersized slice of pizza, say that fast 3 times, I'm gonna use supersized pepperoni. Okay, now this is a little bit risky, but I'm just gonna go for it anyway. I've got a little goat cheese. I'm not gonna put too much on. I'm just gonna find little places. I wanna have a taste of this pizza, and I happen to love goat cheese on pizza, so I think that's all the goat cheese I'm gonna use. Okay, it's gonna go into a 500-degree oven on the lowest rack for about 20 minutes, and I'll watch it to make sure the crust doesn't burn. Hey, boys. Would you like a slice of pizza?
It's like a big old single slice.
I know. So, Mason, this one's yours.
All right.
And I've got 4 more coming. Just kidding. Are you guys hungry?
Yes, hungrier than hungry.
I was watching you guys play out there. It was making me tired.
Except I made a lot of quarterback.
Oh, Mason took off. Bye, Mason. I think he's ready to eat. Oh, gosh. There's just no time for conversation with you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Todd, you're going to wind up with a huge piece here. There you go, son. All right. Aw, thanks. I love those boys. Broccoli rice casserole is a cherished Thanksgiving staple. I started by sauteing some finely minced onion with a little bit of garlic in butter. It's nice and soft. So I'm gonna move forward with making a scrumptious sauce. I'm gonna thicken it up with flour, about 1/4 cup. And I let the flour cook just a little bit. So I'm gonna add 1/2 teaspoon of mustard powder and 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. So I'll stir those in. Ooh, that cayenne, I kinda got a little whiff of it. So now I've got 3 cups of whole milk. I'm gonna turn the heat up just a little bit, and I'll stir the onion and flour mixture while I pour in the milk. Now I need to let this heat up, and it's gonna bubble up and thicken. That'll take about 3 minutes. Amazing. I'm gonna make the sauce a little more creamy by adding some cream cheese. I'm gonna kind of break it up as I add it. I'm gonna add some grated Parmesan. Okay, that is looking good. So I'll grab some salt and pepper. And I like to add quite a bit of pepper. You really can't add too much pepper. At least in my neck of the woods, you can't. And I've got some paprika, and I'll just add about 1/2 teaspoon. So I'll mix that in. So much flavor. Okay, now the cheeses for broccoli rice casserole are very important. You've got to start with good old processed cheese. I cut it into cubes. There is nothing creamier than this cheese when you add it to a sauce. Now I've got some freshly grated sharp cheddar, and I'm gonna add about 1.5 cups, and I'll save the rest to go over the casserole when it goes into the oven. So you're probably wondering, well, what about the broccoli? That goes in now. I've got 8 small heads. Make sure all that broccoli is coated in the cheesy goodness. Okay, it's pretty thick, but that's exactly what you want. So I'm gonna add some sliced pimentos. Pimentos are something I have in my pantry all the time because there are so many casseroles that I'll just kind of add a jar to. This is really looking perfect. So I'll turn off the heat. And now it's time to assemble the casserole, which is so much fun. I've got some cooked long grain rice, and I'm gonna add 1/2 of this bowl to the casserole. Spread out the rice, and then 1/2 of this luscious broccoli cheese sauce goes in, and then the rest of the rice goes on. The rest of the sauce, and the rest of the grated sharp cheddar. Now I'm gonna put this into the oven at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. I'm gonna be heading to church soon, and I cannot wait because that means I'm gonna get to eat this beautiful broccoli rice casserole at the potluck. How good does this look? I cannot recommend this enough. You dive in, and at this point, words fail me. Looks so good. Obviously, at a potluck, there'd be a lot more food to go with it, but I just wanted to show you its deliciousness.
So I have little ones coming by today, and I'm gonna start off by making them chicken strips. But I'm not frying them. I'm gonna put them in the oven. I'm gonna coat them with my favorite potato chips. And I'm using a chip that it has a lot of flavors in it, but it's mainly like a tangy barbecue. And it's gonna taste really, really great with this honey mustard dip I'm making. So I've cut up 4 chicken breasts into strips before I dredge it. I wanna, of course, salt the chicken. And some pepper. 1 cup of flour into this baking dish. I'm gonna crack 3 eggs in the bowl right here. Give this a whisk. So I've crushed these chips right in the bag. So I'm gonna season the flour as well. 2 teaspoons of salt, about a teaspoon of pepper, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of ground mustard. I decided to use ground mustard because I'm making a honey mustard sauce, so I kind of want that flavor in both the chicken and the dip. And 1 teaspoon of paprika. Let's get started. Take a strip, mix it around the flour, dip it in the egg, and directly into the chips. That flour and egg is gonna make sure that everything sticks. So when it bakes, it's gonna be super crunchy and it's gonna taste like I fried them. Being an auntie is really, really cool, especially like the aunties that don't have any children. It's like, you get to have all the fun and then send them back home. All right, oven set to 450. You wanna check it after 10 minutes, then flip it. Now I'm gonna make the dip for my chicken strips. I get tired of eating the same honey mustard dip all the time. It's the same basic dip. So I decided to use every mustard I had available in my fridge. And I experimented and make it a little creamy, make it a little tangy. It's everything that I want a honey mustard to be. Lots of honey. I'm gonna use some yellow mustard. That yellow mustard is gonna give you that tangy, classic mustard flavor. Gonna use some Dijon. I'm also using stone ground Dijon, and that's gonna give it a little texture, little whole grain seeds. I would say about 5 tablespoons of mayo. That's gonna make it creamy. Garlic powder, because I love garlic. Salt and pepper. You can use this on anything. You can use it on your sandwiches, you can use it on a burger. You can dip some French fries in this. Let me check on those chicken strips. They are ready to be flipped. Look how pretty those are. I can tell it's nice and crispy. I can hear it. So I'm flipping it to make sure that both sides get crispy. These look amazing and they smell even better. My chicken strips are done. Ooh, they are gorgeous. They're nice and brown and golden. Wait till the kids get their hands on these.
For lunch in the Drummond cafeteria today, we're having chicken and noodles. Chicken and noodles is one of my all-time favorite dishes, and it's not to be confused with chicken noodle soup. It's more of a thick chicken stew, so delicious. Now I've boiled a whole chicken, boiled it for about 45 minutes, not too high, just a nice simmer. And now I've been shredding the chicken, picking it off the bone. I've always said if you can boil a whole chicken, you can do most things in life. All right, I got all the chicken off the bones. Now I'll add the chicken later, but for now, I'm gonna take the bones and throw them back into the pot. I'm gonna let the bones simmer for about 20 minutes, and that's gonna make the chicken and noodles extra delicious. Well, it's a typical school day on the ranch. The kids have been outside doing a science project, and now they're doing their math drills. They're gonna be in here for lunch pretty soon, so I'm gonna keep moving forward on the chicken and noodles. The bones have been simmering. I got about as much flavor out of these as I could. Make sure I get them all out. Okay. The great thing about chicken and noodles too is you can sort of make it slowly over the course of a morning. There are a few steps to it, but none of them are difficult or complicated. You just have to have a little time. Now, depending on what's going on, I don't always cook like this on homeschool days. Sometimes we just have peanut butter sandwiches, and sometimes we have leftovers from the night before. But today, it seemed like a good day for chicken and noodles. Okay, I'm just dicing up the carrots and celery. I dice them pretty fine because my kids prefer smaller pieces of veggies. But you can make them big if you like it. You can also use root vegetables, add different vegetables that you have in your fridge. All right, dice the celery. So I've got half an onion, and I'll add that to the pot. And then the carrots and celery go in. This is a really pretty dish too. Lots of bright colors. All right, and then the chicken that I pulled off the bones all goes in. There's a lot of chicken in this dish. This is a whole chicken right here. Okay, about a teaspoon of salt, and then some black pepper. Okay, and then I'll add a half a teaspoon of ground thyme. Great flavor. And then this is something my mom always added, just about a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric, also known as turmeric. I never know how to pronounce it. Turmeric is usually for flavor, but I use it in chicken and noodles just for color. It gives it a nice, deep golden color. For some reason, the color just makes the dish taste even more wonderful. All right, now this is gonna cook for another 10 minutes, and then I'll add the noodles, finish it off, and it'll be lunchtime. Now, part of what makes this dish so easy is I use frozen home-style noodles. They're actually the noodles my grandmother used to use. They are so delicious, you wouldn't even know you didn't make them yourself. All right, I'm gonna let the noodles start cooking, and I'm gonna mix up a little bit of a flour paste. I'll add about 1.5 tablespoons of flour to a little bit of water, about 1/2 cup. Now I'll just whisk this until it's really, really smooth. And then I'll just pour it right into the pot. And this is gonna help the sauce thicken a little bit. And that is the important difference between chicken noodle soup and chicken and noodles. I'm just gonna splash in a little bit of 1/2 and 1/2, teaspoon or so of parsley. Stir that in. All right, now I'm gonna let this cook for another 15 minutes till it's nice and thick. Dig in, guys. Chicken and noodles.
It's really good, Mom. Photographing an article for Food Network magazine, and it's all about cheese, making lots of recipes with cheese. So I thought, what's the quintessential cheese recipe? It's grilled cheese sandwiches. I've got just a very simple Pullman loaf, good bakery loaf, not like the stuff from the grocery store. So I'm gonna need 1 cup of mayonnaise, 1/4 cup of mustard. I use good Dijon mustard. And this is the unusual ingredient, Parmesan cheese. 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. I think that works best. And just whisk it all together. And I'm gonna spread this on the bread before I even put the cheese in. I mean, how bad could that be? Okay, that's done. But first, I'm gonna spread some butter on the bread. And that's gonna make sure it's gonna be nice and brown and crisp when it goes into the grill pan or the press. Okay, so that's the butter. Now I'm just gonna flip them all over. You want the butter on the outside of the sandwich. And then I'm gonna spread the inside with the mustard and mayonnaise mixture. I find a spoon for this, an easier way to spread it on. So inside of this, I'm gonna put really good cheese, some crumbled bacon, and put it in a panini press. If you don't have a panini press, you can always do it in a saute pan, just like classic grilled cheese sandwich. Okay, now for the bacon. I think the easiest way to cook bacon is in the oven. On a rack, 400 degrees, 20 to 30 minutes. It comes out perfectly every time. Okay, I'm just gonna put it on the board and just dice it up. Every sandwich gets just a little bit. And just give this a big dice. Just big pieces like that. It's easier to distribute on the sandwiches. Okay, that's the bacon. I'm just gonna put a few pieces on each sandwich. It's a cheese sandwich, not a bacon sandwich. Just adds a little extra flavor. Now we need cheese. I need 6 ounces of cheddar. That should be about 6 ounces right here. And I need 6 ounces of Gruyere. I love Gruyere for this because it's got this really nutty flavor. So the fastest way I know to grate cheese in the food processor. Watch this, it's so fast, I love it. Just put it right in the feed tube. Oh, can't get it all in. Yeah, I can. And that's the cheese. So I'm just gonna put lots of cheese on each one. Just pile it up. Remember, it's all gonna melt together. And only on half the bread slices. Then I'm just gonna take the tops and put them on the bottoms. These are major grilled cheese sandwiches. So I'm gonna do 2 sandwiches at a time. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes. It'll be nice and browned on both sides. Love the sizzle. And when I'm done with this, I'm gonna take them all outside and we're gonna photograph them in the garden.
So just grab that one branch and pull it across that way a little bit. There you go, that way, that's it, that's good.
my crispy tortilla pizza and saving salad. Okay? Pizza and salad. Who doesn't love a good pizza?
I love
salad.
pizza and salad.
Katie, I need you to kind of chop that iceberg, right? Which I think is the.
I love iceberg.
It is like the most underrated vegetable in the vegetable kingdom.
I love iceberg lettuce.
Yeah.
And Katie told me a little tidbit here about.
Everybody thinks that there's no health value in iceberg lettuce. I had to investigate because I like it so much. It actually has vitamin K.
What is that? No idea.
Which is hard to find, apparently. And it has lecithin, which helps fight cellulite.
I think it's 93% water from what they say.
I just want the crunch. I love the crunch.
Great with the creamy dressing. So we got some blue cheese dressing. We got some tomatoes. So just throw all that in there. I'll get to that in a second. But let's start with this tortilla. Store-bought, very inexpensive and affordable. Flour tortilla. I put a little olive oil in a non-stick skillet.
You can use corn.
You can use corn oil, whatever. But I've used a very, very little amount. But what this is going to do is start frying this, right? To create that crispy bottom, like almost tavern-style pizza crust that I love.
Oh, boy.
Next comes our tomatoes. Thinly sliced beefsteak tomatoes. We're gonna put a couple of those, and we're gonna build this in the hot pan. I got my broiler going.
Jeff.
This is not only cheap, but it's quick.
Is this like a slender Chicago-style pizza in the pan?
Well, no, this is like a tavern-style Chicago crust, thin crust pizza. The pizza that real Chicagoans eat. We eat the deep dish stuff once a year.
I want to know something. Is this one pizza for 4 people?
No, this recipe actually makes 4 pizzas.
Oh, that's
so this is just for me.
Beautiful.
You guys can all go have a granola bar
All right,
in the back.
I feel better now because I
right, me
need that
too.
whole pizza to myself.
So I just added some caramelized onions. We did them low and slow on the stovetop, right? We just don't disturb them. Don't stir them too much. Don't salt them. Let those sugars develop. Next come the cheese.
What kind of cheese?
We got whole milk mozzarella from the block, which is more affordable, that we grated ourselves. No anti-caking agents, and we're going to the edge.
Oh, you're doing
so
Chicago.
all that cheese drips down and creates even more pleasurable, crispy, lacy, crackery cheese crust.
That's the best bite.
I love that.
And you could throw all that in there too.
Oh,
So
okay.
we just got some fresh tomatoes from the ends of the sliced tomatoes and some crispy bacon.
That's
Or
a
you could just
really
throw-
good save, the tomato scraps.
Exactly.
And
Put
this
it in your
feels like
salad.
a pizzeria salad. The
Yeah.
iceberg, it's what you get. You might even put it on your pizza.
And you need that creamy
Can I
dressing
dress this?
too.
Can I put a little?
Yeah, go ahead, dress it. That's just a good blue cheese dressing. And you can use spicy or sweet Italian sausage. This is a nice combo. I like the both. But again, 1 link is enough for 4 pizzas with this. Now it's going in the broiler.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
All right, where it's gonna hit the top of that, make it all gooey. So I've had one broiling for a couple minutes in the bottom here. And since we started it in the pan, we got a crispy crust and perfectly bubbly golden brown top.
Beautiful.
With a pizza, because we use that nonstick, look at that. Slides right out. Do you see
Wow,
that?
that was so easy.
Beautiful.
Look at the bottom.
that?
Can you see the bottom?
Gorge.
Let me see
Get a
that.
shot of the bottom. That's beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Look at that. You see that?
That is joyous.
That's because we started a little bit of oil in the bottom pan right there.
And that cheese.
And that cheese all the way around. You see the lacy
That's
edge of
that
that?
good stuff.
That's what the kids want these days, right? I don't know if they want omelets. All right. Katie, it is time, right? And this is an individual pizza for 1. So I'm gonna cut it in quarters.
By the way, you know what I might do with this? I might put the iceberg in the freezer and do an icy cold lettuce
Look at
salad.
you, I love it.
Oh, gosh.
Thank you again.
Nothing like
Hold my
brisket.
salad bowl.
This is a 1 portion for me. It's my truff salad.
The salad? Yeah.
Rough. Nobody's going hungry here at the dinner table tonight. And you get your veggies and your protein and your
beautiful.
calcium.
Jeff, what does this cost?
This, I don't know. We're about to find out. Let me plate you one, Sir Jeffrey.
I absolutely love the sausage on there. I love the textures. I love the juiciness of the iceberg. And then we go to the richness of the cheese. It's hot and cold.
First thing I'm gonna make is this mac and cheese, which is traditional mac and cheese with the volume turned up. So to make real mac and cheese, as opposed to the stuff in the box, first thing I wanna do is make a bechamel sauce, which is really a fancy word for white sauce. So I'm gonna heat 1 quart of milk, and then in another pan, I'm gonna melt 6 tablespoons of butter, and add half a cup of flour, and cook them together for about 2 minutes. While I'm whisking it, you don't want the butter to burn. This is the kind of sauce you use in a gratin, which sounds fancy in French, but it's perfect for mac and cheese. Okay, now I just want to slowly add the hot milk. And you'll see the whole thing becomes a really nice, thick, light sauce. Add it, whisk it. Actually, I think you can just, whoa, that's hot. How about forget slowly, just dump it all in. Okay, there, that's fast. And now off the heat, just gonna add some flavorings. Tablespoon of salt. It seems like a lot, but remember we're putting a lot of pasta in this. Half a teaspoon of pepper and half a teaspoon of nutmeg, which is sort of a classic gratin seasoning. I thought would be really good with mac and cheese. Just whisk it together. I actually think nutmeg brings out the flavor in the cheese, which brings me to the next thing, cheese. Lots of good cheese. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in 12 ounces of good Swiss Gruyere. It's a really nutty cheese, and it's just wonderful in mac and cheese. And I'm just going to take off the rind. And then I'll show you a really fast, I mean, you can do this by hand with a grater if you want to, but if you have a food processor, it's really fast. So you take the grating disc, just like this, and then there's a post that goes on it. That goes in the food processor. And then the top goes on. It's a little bit of a process, but when you see how fast it is, you'll know why. Oh, isn't that amazing? One more piece. Okay, little piece left over for the cook. The second cheese I use is cheddar, and I'm going to use 8 ounces of good cheddar. So I'm just going to cut this in half. I love good cheddar. It's just sharp and got lots of flavor. And do the same thing. Last piece. Now that would have taken a lot of time if I'd done it by hand. Lots of cheese. Okay, then I'm going to put the cheese into the sauce. A lot of cheese in this sauce. But that's why it tastes so good. Okay, just stir it in. You don't want the heat on in this process because you want the cheese to melt when it's mixed with the macaroni. You don't want to burn the cheese. Burnt cheese, but. So I'm going to combine this now with macaroni, which I cooked. Actually, I use cavatappi. You can certainly use macaroni, but cavatappi's like that, and I just thought it's a little more special for a party. So put that in a bowl. Add the sauce. It's about a pound of macaroni or cavatappi. Okay, mix that all together. Boy, this looks like enough for a crowd. In my experience, everybody loves it, so they eat a lot. So I'm going to pour this into a dish, and I'm going to do sliced tomatoes and breadcrumbs on the top. Gives a nice little crunch and delicious flavor with the. So it really is macaroni and cheese, but for a party. Okay, into the dish. Now, how bad could that be? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take probably two tomatoes. I'll see how they take the little cores out. These are good Israeli tomatoes, and they're on the vine. And I cut them with a bread knife. It really helps. When this all bakes together, the tomatoes get baked into the mac and cheese. It's just wonderful. So just right on top, really simple. And one trick is you never want to put tomatoes in the refrigerator. It really destroys the flavor. Perfect. Okay, now breadcrumbs. So maybe about 5 slices of bread. Just cut the crusts off, cut these in pieces, and then put them in the food processor with a steel blade, and just whir it up. Just do it enough so they're little crumbs, but not so it's all stuck together. 2 tablespoons of butter. Okay, just melt that. Pour in the breadcrumbs. Just mix them together. The butter really helps the breadcrumbs brown. Want a nice brown top. Okay, right on top of the tomatoes and the mac and cheese. I'm going to bake it at 375 for 30 minutes, and it's going to be bubbly and delicious. And next I'm going to make shortcakes. Real old-fashioned food. And I think Greg's going to love it.
So I'm making one of my favorite comfort food casseroles, chicken spaghetti. And it's my husband's favorite, my kids' favorite, so it's going to work out well for me. I start chicken spaghetti by boiling a chicken. I just put a whole cut up chicken in a pot, brought it to a boil, then reduced the heat and simmered it for 25 minutes. Now the chicken is really tender, it's falling off the bone, so I'll let that cool for a second. Now for the casserole recipe, I'll need some chicken broth, so I just used the broth that was created by cooking the chicken. This is such a simple dish. And one of the things that makes this casserole so great is that it's easy to eat. And part of the reason for that is I break the spaghetti into pieces. So I just do it right over the pot. And I cook the spaghetti right in the broth that I cooked the chicken in, so it gives the spaghetti great flavor. This is about 1 pound of spaghetti pieces. Okay, now while the spaghetti's cooking, I'll get the chicken ready. It's cool enough to handle. So I'm just gonna hold it over the bowl that I'll mix the casserole in, take off the skin as I go, and then I'm just grabbing the chicken and shredding it with my fingers. Spaghetti's not quite ready, so I'll add the other ingredients to the bowl. I've got a diced onion and diced green and red bell pepper. Now most of this casserole recipe is from scratch, but there's one ingredient I just can't reproduce, and that's canned cream of mushroom soup. I'm sorry guys, but it makes the casserole so good, you just gotta use it. There is no substitute. So that goes on in. And I love this because I just mix it all in one bowl. So I'll just go ahead and add in the salt and pepper. And then I add just a little bit of seasoned salt. It gives it some great flavor, just about a half a teaspoon or so. Now this is also optional, but I like to give the chicken spaghetti a little kick, and I add some cayenne pepper. Just probably 4 or 5 little sprinkles. Now I'll just give this a stir. And I think the spaghetti should be ready by now. So I'll just make it easy and just pull it right out. Save myself a long trip to the sink to drain this stuff. And see, if I hadn't broken up the spaghetti pieces, I wouldn't be able to do this. I'm always thinking ahead, I tell ya. Not really. Okay. Got the spaghetti in there, so I'll just give it a stir. Start introducing all the ingredients. Then the broth goes in. I'll start with about 1 cup of the broth that I reserved. And then at the very end, I'll check and see what the consistency's like, and I can always splash in more. All right, now I'm gonna grate some cheese. I use sharp cheddar cheese because it's particularly delicious in this casserole when it all melts. And I'll just throw 2 cups right into the bowl with the spaghetti mixture. Okay, now this is where I check the consistency, and it does look like it needs a little more liquid. Because it's baking in the oven, you want it to be a little bit liquidy when it goes in. Then it won't get thick and gloopy. Okay, now I'll just pour it into a casserole dish. Scrape all that yumminess in there. And then I have more cheese left, and it just goes over the top. If this casserole is wrong, I don't want to be right. All right, now this just needs to go into a 350-degree oven for about 35 or 40 minutes. Hey, that was fun. That was awesome, wasn't it?
That was really fun.
You guys hungry for lunch?
Yes. Yeah.
Starving. So who's the hungriest?
Josh.
Ooh, Josh.
Josh is.
You're gonna get a big old helping. Here, Josh, you can serve some salad.
Wow.
I couldn't believe how hot that was.
Well, this one will be a lot hotter, I bet.
Did you get the second boxcar cleaned out yet?
Yep, we burned it.
Daddy, you did not burn it without me.
You didn't want to be there, did you?
I'm not falling for it.